sector is important because if there's ever to be industrialization of Africa or uplifting of people's livelihoods, one of the key things that we need is power. And how do we deliver that power in a sustainable manner? So this is what Oxygen we are trying to do, starting off with obviously the corporate sector, but moving on to private residences. By delivering green, sustainable energy, you ensure that our resources are not infinite; they're quite finite, right? We're trying to create a basis whereby future generations do not feel that we shortchange them, much like the way probably your so-called dirty fuels have in the past, and that you have Western countries have developed off coal. Coal is now bad for the environment, but Africa has lagged behind. So this is definitely the reality that we have at the present moment. So at Oxygen Africa, together with Old Mutual, we came together for a commercial rooftop solar project that basically delivers power to SMEs in all their properties. So we're looking at 20 megawatts, 216 properties in total. The innovation around that is that Oxygen Old Mutual takes on the fiduciary role of buying the power on behalf of its clients, thus increasing energy access. And of course, what we did is we're trying to align our project in line with the SDGs of 7, clean and affordable power, 13, which is also climate, and also the Ministry of Energy has also said, guys, you're looking at responsible consumption, economical growth, your project is aligned to SDGs, of which we're very happy because we're passionate about this. You've got innovations that come through your ears, millions of innovations, but how do you deliver these innovations to the end client at a price that they can afford? How do you create value? You know, when in doubt, follow the money. Does it make financial sense? Right? So what we have done, we've created innovations whereby companies actually make money from the electricity that they use. So I'll give you an example of a certain bank that's Old Mutual is also a part of. They've got 74 branches across the country, right? Their project is about 3.2 megawatts, and it will require 3.6 million to construct. So they've said, we've raised the money, but they've said, no, look, we're going to give you the money. Because we asked them, say, why don't you give us this money? Why? Because you're going to pay me 600,000 a year in electricity payments, but your company's going to make back 500,000 every year. So which means from that 3 million that you give me, you're probably going to yield 4.2 million. So basically, from the energy that you're consuming, the green energy you're consuming, you're making a margin. So your banks are green, and from whatever you use, so instead of saving energy, use as much of it as you can because you make money. So our innovation rests upon how you model the delivery of that innovation financially to the end client. Because we can innovate all we want, but at the end of the day, as long as someone can't afford to buy it, that's where the problem is. So even if you look at the 216 buildings that we're doing, instead of me dealing with 1,000 SMEs and different, the nightmares of how you're going to get electricity payments, Old Mutual said, no, we will collect the payments for you. So we will have one single agreement, act as a fiduciary, and will buy this power on behalf of our tenants at a saving, making it bankable. So even for Oxygen, which is a startup as well, it also helped us raise our funding because we've got an investment-grade off-taker, an investment-grade investor, which is Old Mutual, and I'm sitting in the middle as a young African. I'm saying, look, I'm going to take my continent's energy, I'm going to try and solve my continent's energy problem via a locally based and locally funded solution. The only problem is that in Africa, sad to say, startups are not really lauded, and they're not viewed as the same excitement as you have if you're coming out of Europe or America. So they will call a conference and you'll have 1,000 social entrepreneurs, but ask how many of them actually get money to bring their project to market. But you'll have guys like B-Box, guys like Off-Grid Electric, guys like M-Kopa, guys like Solar Kiosk that will get hundreds of millions thrown at them to solve our problem in our backyard and make the money that's going to go to them. How does it make sense? So now, if you then wake up 10 years from now and a whole generation of young entrepreneurs or youth don't care about SDGs or shifting value, can you blame them? Because how has it changed their lives?
And how have they been invested in?
Exactly. Like, for example, you, 10 years from now, you can ask a silly question. What has SDGs done for me? I like wearing weaves. Have I ever bought a weave from an SDG?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, but it sounds crazy, but it's true. Has he ever bought a phone or a new camera from having a company or a startup that champions SDGs? So why should I buy into it?
Why should we even look at it for solutions?
Exactly.
Find solutions for it?
But other guys have got names and lights and millions of dollars to show for it.
Very good. Thank you very much. The World Food Program, which is the organization I work for, in Southern Africa, we really are looking at the people who have problems to eat every day 3 meals. We are looking at the women and children that are looking like weak because they are undernourished. And we are also looking at the effects of the climate change in the communities, in the cities, and in the rural areas, both. And as World Food Program, we are looking at these issues with looking at opportunities more than the challenges. And in Southern Africa, being a very, very productive region of the world, we cannot say that people can go hungry to bed in an area of the world where there is so much production, so much diversity. And this is what we are trying to do, to match the challenge with the opportunity. And what are we doing? We are doing here is basically, when we have communities that go food insecure, what we go is we work with them to make sure that they stop planting, for example, just maize every year, because maybe they are affected by drought, by El Nino, or maybe by floods due to La Nina. But what we will do with them as World Food Program is we try them to diversify their production, to produce vegetables, to produce pulses, or to produce cassava, or to produce sorghum or millet, which in fact will improve their food security by diversity. So that's one. The second one is we also try to improve the income of the smallholder farmers which are working in this region. We have hundreds of thousands of smallholder farmers, and many of them are women, and women are very critical for this. For food security, women are the most critical. So what we do is basically we go and work with the smallholder farmers to improve their production and also the quality of the food they produce, so they can reach the markets and they can sell it to the markets. And that's what we do. So basically, the region, with all the challenges of climate change affecting shocks and all that, has improved a lot. Look, for example, now the governments and the communities, they really have better early warning, better forecasts. We don't see things like what we saw in Mozambique in the 2000 or what we have seen in other areas due to drought or floods. People don't die anymore on these natural disasters because the governments and the communities know when to raise the alert and the alarm. And WFP has worked with them as an organization to improve the systems, to do analysis, to know when the storms are coming, forecast, and also prevent when the waters are rising, people can move out. That's one improvement. The second improvement we can say in the nutrition and HIV/AIDS. Many years ago, people will die of HIV/AIDS in the region, and people also will not be able even to take the ARTs because they didn't have enough food. Now we have matched the food security with the treatment. So if you have ART and you're taking your drugs, you will have some food to take with those drugs. So to make sure that the drugs are efficient. And like that, we have seen that the HIV/AIDS deaths have reduced dramatically in rural and urban areas. Another improvement has been on school feeding. Many children don't go to school because they don't have anything to eat. So World Food Program has worked with the governments, the communities, and also the smallholder farmers so that they produce food, and that food can be used to be sold to the schools or be used by the schools. And in the schools, they prepare a hot meal for the children. So children are not hungry and they can attend the schools. More children are at the schools. They participate and they learn much better because they have something in the stomach, so they don't go hungry during the whole day. So these are three things I will mention like improvement. For us, the share value is extremely critical. Let me give you an example. In Mozambique, like 10 years ago, we were not being able to buy oil, vegetable oil, to provide to the vulnerable people because Mozambique vegetable oil was not fortified with vitamin A. And then we sat and discussed with the government, with the private sector, and we say, why don't we start a project where you can fortify the oil that you produce in Mozambique so we can buy it and give it to the people? So the private sector say, that's a win-win for me. So I will buy a feeder, I will buy the macronutrients and the vitamins, and I will put it in the oil. And then the government supported them with the policy, make sure everybody needs to buy fortified oil, and we supported with the expertise, technical, and support to the companies and to the government, and then we were the first market to buy this oil from the companies. So it was a win-win. And you see, there was not much investment from anybody. And by all working together, what we have managed now is that that Mozambican oil has vitamin A, and that is reaching all the millions of Mozambicans. So it's a very simple investment for very large impact. So that's an example of share value and what we do in many other countries of the region.
The private sector has a key role. Food security, let's put a number on it, and let's put some facts behind both the challenge and the opportunity. So 815 million people go to bed hungry every night, out of which 224 million are in Africa. For the 11 countries that we have robust data, there's 37 million people who are acutely hungry. That's people who need food assistance to survive. Those are sobering numbers. And so the imperative, the urgency, the size of the challenge is huge, and more needs to be done. Now let's look at the opportunity. And the opportunity is that in achieving the SDGs, there's 12.3 trillion, with a T, $12.3 trillion of business opportunity. And this is in solving the social issues, the developmental challenges, and all of the SDG indicators. That's the business opportunity. So it's a real business opportunity that the private sector needs to step into and take hold of. So there are companies of different sizes doing more on shared value than they ever were before, because the reality is that our planet is in trouble, and the people on the planet are in trouble, and we can no longer have these the compartmentalized nature and the silos of saying, well, I'm over here and it's all fine, and those people over there. We're incredibly connected, and we should be. So the fact is that the small and medium enterprises, for instance, also have creative, innovative solutions that they are, creating commercial value for themselves while solving problems in their communities. That's very exciting. And then you have global companies who invest billions of dollars in, tech and R&D, etc., who are also getting into this space. Something that the World Food Programme could never do. We don't invest in something like this because our mandate is to save lives and change lives, and we provide food assistance. So what we look for with companies is, why don't you use the kind of expertise, the knowledge that you have, and your investment to partner with us to solve these issues? And it is a very nice, complementary, symbiotic relationship. Are we seeing ground level impact? Yes, we are. I want to temper that though, because, we were sitting on the panel, on the stage, and there's a screen there, and it counts down the time. And it suddenly went to red and said, time is up. And I actually thought, no, time is not up just for this session. We are running out of time to solve these issues for the planet. And so for the private sector, I'll share a few examples because I want to, obviously want to end with hope. It is infinitely hopeful because they're very creative people and dedicated people doing incredible work. So one example is when we needed to create more nutritious outcomes for the people that we serve. We are in people's homes, 80 million people who are furthest behind, and we're the only food in their homes. WFP's food basket. But it wasn't creating the nutritious outcomes that they deserve and need. So we worked with a life sciences company called DSM, who created a new product that actually is micronutrients and supplements for most vulnerable groups of people, such as children under 2, pregnant women, lactating mothers, and enabled us to actually reach really much better nutritious outcomes for these vulnerable populations. And at the same time, they had a market, they had a new product and a new market that they could then take advantage commercially. Another example is that we needed to do airdrops in South Sudan where there are floods. But often planes also need to land somewhere there. So how to then drop oil from the sky? This was a huge issue. We could drop all other commodities except oil because it explodes. And so we went to the private sector and said, can someone help us solve this issue? And they did. And it was individual packaging of 6 to 8 bottles of oil with a parachute. And they don't explode. And this is a solution that came from the private sector that directly impacts people who have no access to food. So there are lots of ideas out there. And my sense of urgency is for companies and all of those creative, smart people to really put their energy behind these issues because, it's needed.
For more more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za, subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on our social mediums.